Let's do you then, Deputy Mayor Baeremaeker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you very much for coming in today. You mentioned that you were an urban planner. And are you aware that urban planners recommended that the Scarborough Civic Centre be built in its current form with all the spaghetti ring roads that are there?
That was a different model of urban planning.
Different model.
That was the old, that was the 50s model, okay, which was very car-oriented. Right.
And if you look at Eglinton Avenue, for example, close to where I live, it's 7 8-lane roads, strip plazas with parking in the front. Urban planners told us to do that, correct?
That was a different school of planning. That was before Jane Jacobs.
Right. So through you, Mr. Chair, we are in one stinking mess right now thanks to the advice of our urban planners. Correct?
Well, things evolve, Mr. Baeremaeker.
Right. So I should continue to take advice from urban planners, given all the mess they've made.
Sorry, on a point of order, Mayor Tory. I'm trying to hear the deputant's answers, and Councillor Baeremaeker is not letting her finish. I'd like to hear her answers.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So you posed the mess question.
That we urban planners have recommended us to do things that are a total mess.
Yep.
And you're an urban planner.
Okay. Do I have?
You go ahead.
Okay. I suggest everyone read Jane Jacobs' book, Death and Life of Great American Cities, because in that book she describes her critique of the planning of the 50s, which was highway-oriented, car-oriented, and gave us these spaghetti loop subdivisions, which, you know, are totally car-dependent. And she describes her critique. She has a scathing critique of that era of planning. So we're in a new era now.
Right. And I'm a great fan of Jane Jacobs. I've seen the documentaries. I've read her books. So you and I are in complete agreement.
Transit planning has to deal with numbers, operating costs.
So you and I would agree then that Scarborough today is suffering because of the advice of urban planners in the past?
Yes, the car-oriented urban planners, and that's why light rail is much better for these wide arterials, and you can get networks all across Scarborough very quickly.
Okay. And through you, Mr. Chair, when I looked, I think it's the same list. I think you showed us the young line there in your diagram. Mm-hmm. The Rosedale subway station, only daily ridership of the Rosedale subway station, you know where all the rich white people live, that station carries 6,000 people a day. Mm-hmm. Should we keep that station open when they can just walk up the street? You can see the next station from Rosedale. I've been there.
Well, first of all, 400 meters is the standard 5-minute walking distance. So even if you have, if you've got 12 stations, if a few of them are underperforming and the total ridership is like huge, then you need to have some accessibility built in. And if you look at the Rosedale station, figure out how much it costs to build that. It's at grade. Yep. Now look at the Bessarion station on Shepherd. It's a palace that's probably 3 times the size of the Bloor interchange. It practically empty. So what the heck is going on with these new stations? Why are we building palaces?
So I'm over here, thanks.
Deputy Mayor.
If I can squeeze in my last question. So you support keeping the Rosedale subway station open, even though it only has 6,000 passengers a day getting on there?
Because you have to look at the total system.
Not in Scarborough.
No, the Deputy Mayor, let her answer.
You're looking at 12 stations versus 1.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Does that bring us now to Councillor Burnside then? Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So, in your presentation, you're comparing the Young Line to Scarborough. Aren't we talking about? We're talking about totally different densities, though, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. How many? Just refresh my memory. How many RT stops are there?
I think there's
5. And how have they impacted the development or density in Scarborough?
Well, I know there's one stop that there seems to be a big housing development that has gone in. Is it Lawrence, where that big housing development is? Ellesmere. There's a big housing development that's gone in around that.
But by and large, not a lot has changed? Is that?
I think the Lawrence bus.
Councillor Baeremaeker.
There's several east-west bus lines that feed into those stations.
Right, but I guess what I'm trying to say is, ask is what's the impact of whatever transit's there now.
Of
which would be
taking
RT.
away their transit, you mean?
No, no, I'm not taking away, is what has been the impact on development?
Well, you know, it really, the RT was not an ideal technology, first of all. And secondly, you've got to have a plan for, you know, stimulating growth around those stations. And I don't think that probably has happened, that there was really a planning focus. I don't know.
Right. And you were talking about how, or Councillor Baeremaeker brought up the point about Scarborough being planned basically on the model of the car, right? So in many ways, we are kind of a slave to the past, right? Because we have to probably react to that on some level, right? And you said, you did mention that you're an urban planner. Now, have you looked at the UK model? Now, obviously not in the heart of London because it's been built up for 500 years, but they actually do use that sort of, they look at that, I'll say, node where they have like it's more of a one-stop express, and they develop around that.
You mean like commuter rail?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the City of London is so big, it's really now just Greater London, it would be, but that's sort of.
When you talk about creating nodes outside of London, you're looking at commuter rail, like you're looking at the GO trains. So
no, these
really,
are part of,
GO
these
train.
these are part of the actual London Transit.
So what do you mean by nodes?
Well, as opposed to stop after stop after stop. One of the issues.
Right.
Okay, so let me articulate it a different way. The idea of higher order transit is to speed up people's commute.
Yes.
Okay. And so an LRT presumably faster than a bus.
An LRT can go as fast as a subway.
Right, but there is one limiting factor of any transit, whether it's bus, subway, or anything, are the number of stops.
Well, you see, that's a trade-off, and where you have to distinguish between local transit, like a bus that goes to everywhere, is like 200 to 250 kilometers.
No, I get the concept. Unfortunately, I have 3 minutes. I guess my point is that the number of stops will actually slow down your commute.
Well, I'll tell you what it takes for the subway train to stop at one of the intermediate stops, not Cllr. It takes less than 20 seconds. Next time you're riding on the Cllr Danforth line and it stops at Coxwell, count from the time it slows down, opens the doors, closes the doors, and speed ups. 20 seconds. That's how much it takes.
20 seconds from the time it goes from top speed to back to top speed? Not a chance.
Yep.
Okay.
Maximum 30 seconds, maximum. Count. Go on. Try it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councillor Burnside, thank you, and Mr. Vanderwagen, thank you. And then we have next Councillor Pasternak.